All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. I'm seeing that we are having some technical problems with Rumble right now, and I'm frozen. Are you frozen?
I don't feel frozen.
All right, stand by for just a second here while we try and figure out what the heck's going on with our Rumble feed.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's on.
Yeah, it's showing me up here that it's having trouble with Rumble is what it says. So, okay. We are going to have to switch to the away from studio and straight to the real Rumble, not real Rumble, but the normal Rumble stream. And yep, there we go.
We'll do it live, as the great Bill O'Reilly says.
Yeah. That is tragic. That is tragic. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Chris Paul joining me on Friday. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Well, you're not frozen, so that's a good thing.
Thank goodness.
It
is the first day of spring, after all.
Is it?
Or maybe it's the last day of winter. It's one of those. Maybe those are the same. I don't know.
Is the last day of winter the first day of spring?
I'm not sure if it happens like at noon, which makes half the day winter and half the day spring. I don't know how it works, but maybe it's midnight tonight and tomorrow's the first day of spring. Somebody in the chat's going to know.
Is it? Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Does it stop at midnight or does it stop at noon?
Yeah. I have no idea. I'm just making shit up.
I know with presidents, it's noon. So
there you go. Yeah.
With the season, it should also be noon. So all right, guys, welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and jump into some of our fine sponsors before we get rolling. And first up, let's talk about All Good, guys. Make self-care great again with All Good by our very own Jessica Storm. Made in small batches by Jessica in Florida with only clean ingredients with purpose, zero junk, and packaged in amber glass jars. So it's all good inside and out. No microplastics in your healthcare, folks, in your beauty care. Start with the lightweight pure whipped tallow for an all-over hydration. Tighten up with the No-Tox smoothing serum. Treat your hair with the game-changing tallow hair mask and finish with the tamed hair serum or tallow beard balm for control and style. You want to get ready for spring? Well, grab some of All Good's tallow sunscreen and bug out balm to nourish your skin while protecting it. Get a bundle of your faves over at badlandsmedia.tv/allgood and use promo code Badlands to discount your entire purchase and to support the creators here at Badlands Media. Again, that's badlandsmedia.tv/allgood, promo code Badlands. And I would go out on a limb here and say that Jessica knows what she's doing with the bug out balm, because those are the state bird. Bugs in general are the state bird of Florida. I know every state says that, but that is our state bird. The mosquito is. And she's on the West Coast, so she gets no-see-ums too. Those things are a pain in the ass.
Mm.
Oh, you guys get no-see-ums?
No.
They're called no-see-ums because you can't see them. They look like gnats, but they're stinging gnats. Like they bite you. And so like there's all sorts of Florida natural remedies to get rid of them, like keep a dryer sheet in your pocket or whatever. None of it works. Sundown on the West Coast, sundown to sun up, you will get engulfed by no-see-ums, and they are not fun. We don't have them on the East Coast, but they are all over on the West Coast. All right.
Florida's like the Australia of America.
It is absolutely the Australia of America. I saw somebody in the GART chat was saying, well, CannCon, at least they don't have brown recluses down there. Yeah, we do.
Oh,
Brown recluses are these spiders that have like a violin on their back. And if they bite you, like you swell up like a freaking grapefruit.
Yeah, aren't those supposed to be like even more dangerous or like equivalently dangerous with the black widow spider?
I don't believe so. I don't think we've ever had anybody like black widows can be fatal. I don't think brown.
I've heard that. Yeah. We used to have black widows every now and then in California.
We get them down here, but mainly like I've never seen one down here, but we get them supposedly.
Man, those things are crazy to look at. Like when you just stumble upon one of those, you're like, oh, get away from that.
The Black Widows, to me, it's a shame they named, Black Widow, the character in Marvel, because Black Widow would be perfect for the Dark Spider-Man. Like, like when Spider-Man, like when he's not wearing his red and blue and he's wearing the black with the red, the Dark Spider-Man should have been Black Widow.
Oh, there you go.
But they gave it to Scarlett Johansson instead. I'm not complaining about that, though. All right, guys, let's jump into our next sponsor. Unexpected health emergencies don't wait. Stay ahead with Save Pulse's medical emergency kit, your all-in-one solution for over 30 common illnesses. This kit is packed with broad-spectrum antibiotics, antiparasitics like ivermectin, antifungals, anti-nausea relief, pain relievers, and anti-inflammatories. Plus, explore their top offerings. Semaglutide for weight management, discounted doxycycline, azithromycin, ashwagandha supplements, and more, all at unbeatable prices with free shipping on orders over $299. Be prepared for anything. Shop Save Pulse today and protect what matters most. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use promo code BadlandsKit for 20% off. Again, badlandsmedia.tv/meds, promo code BadlandsKit. All right, and let's get into the news here. Pull that down. And if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up button. And where are we going to go first today? I think we might go and start with the press conference that Bibi Netanyahu did yesterday, because during that press conference, he pushed back on Joe Kent's claims that Israel made us do it. So let's go ahead and start with that clip here.
These opening remarks with one other fake news, and that is that Israel somehow dragged the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on. President Trump always makes his decisions on what he thinks is good for America. And may I add, I think what is also good for future generations. These opening remarks with.
All right. So you've got Netanyahu saying that, does anybody think that, you're going to tell President Trump what to do? No. But do I think that you could potentially do something and President Trump is then required to respond and react to it? Yes. We had this debate last night on SitRep. Alpha and I were joined by Josh Reed, and we were talking about this. And it's kind of weird because like all three of us like agree on different parts of the narrative behind this Iran war. This is one that, I believe that we came to somewhat of a consensus that it's a possibility that this kicked off because of a preemptive attack that maybe we weren't quite ready for. But what Netanyahu says right there is completely contradicted by what President Trump just said yesterday before Netanyahu. I think this was before Netanyahu did that press conference where he says Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as the South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved, nor did have any idea that it was going to happen. So, I mean, you have a strong contrast right there to what Netanyahu's saying.
Yeah, I think the press conference yesterday was really interesting. A lot of different communications there, and I presented last week on my channel the document I've been talking about controlled opposition the discombobulator and the rest of it. And kind of one of the takeaways from the discombobulator segment of it is that Trump's media strategy for now almost a decade has been to occupy all positions at some point. So if you want to be anti-Trump all the time, you will eventually end up arguing with something that you have already made the case for, right? So you'll end up looking like the totally inconsistent one because Trump is never punished for these things, because Trump actually starts these important cultural conversations that a lot of Americans outside of the media ecosystem who really have, like the people who follow media every day, have really firm opinions about everything that's going on in the media. And a lot of normal people out there just kind of go with the flow, whatever they feel like. And so they have a lot of different concerns than the people who are obsessed with media. When you present them with a range of options about how they can feel about an issue, and it's presented in a serious way, even when Trump's joking, it's in a serious way because he's occupying all the volume, right? Everybody's going to listen to what he says and then take it seriously, even if they end up dismissing it, saying it's a lie, whatever it is, they're still interacting with that information. So when everybody is exposed to information on that level, they get to start thinking about these ideas. And sooner or later, what we've seen is that a large portion of the country begins to shift their opinions to something that doesn't align with either the mainstream left or the mainstream right. And so I think these communication operations are designed specifically for that. And I would suggest that there's a possibility that Bibi is playing the opposite side of that over in Israel. And I'm not saying he's not evil, the history, whatever it is. I'm not interested in people's opinions about whether Bibi Netanyahu is the greatest man on earth or the worst man who ever lived. All I'm talking about is the comm strategy. And it seems like what they're doing is confusing absolutely everybody so that no matter where any of these bad faith actors in the media sphere come down on any given issue, they're going to end up being wrong. And that's what deteriorates trust in the media. And I think that's been one of Trump's greatest weapons for a decade.
Yeah, there definitely are a lot of, quote unquote psychological operations going on. And we would assume that they are. I mean, can't exactly identify them because, again, if it was identifiable as a psychological operation, it wouldn't be a very effective psychological operation. A lot of people are speculating about the Joe Kent resignation, which I firmly believe that is a psychological operation. Watching, I was saying earlier that, it mirrors exactly the Dan Caldwell formula. And one thing we've seen is that these formulas kind of pop up now and then with the Venezuela replacement theory moving over to now Iran and eventually Cuba. And I'm seeing the chat saying Chuck Norris died. I just checked that real quick. It's not saying he died, just that he was hospitalized.
Chuck Norris doesn't die. I'm not sure.
Chuck Norris can't die, right?
Yeah. Death dies in the face of Chuck Norris.
The boogeyman checks his closet at night for Chuck Norris.
I think it's interesting that we got the resurgence of the Chinese hacked our elections story from back in the old days when we attended the pit in Arizona. Greg Phillips coming back to the fore on the front page of CNN today. They're calling Greg Phillips a conspiracy theorist. And you have to think that those two different angles on that will connect with Greg Phillips are intentional and coordinated on a timeline to come out right now. One of the things that Greg Phillips said back then that I have always kept in the back of my head is everything is an info op. And I think that that's correct. I mean, I got to witness the process of public relations in Hollywood for many years and how various parts of that process worked. And what's happening when we're getting the news, whether it's from a newspaper or cable news or on the internet or whatever, we have that end news that we are receiving is the product of multiple levels of public relations manipulation to refine that information in a message that would appeal to various target demographics and cause them to adopt certain beliefs. And so I think we have to keep that in mind at all times when we're watching these things. Certainly Trump is conscious of that. Netanyahu's conscious of it. The military is conscious of it. The media is conscious of it. And then we have all these different other interests who have a stake in what happens in Iran, and all of these influences are affecting that messaging in some way. And to lose sight of that, trying to figure out who the good and bad guys are, or exactly what happens 10,000 miles away, which is impossible. Losing sight of the comms op is kind of missing the game. And so, you have something here like Netanyahu comes out, and I don't know if you're going to do more clips, and I'll just pause here if you are.
No.
Okay. So in that same press conference, he said that, sorry to break it to you, Christians, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Jesus Christ has nothing on Genghis Khan. It turns out that if you have overwhelming power and are willing to use it, then evil will overcome good. That Netanyahu said that. And again, it's not a direct quote, so you can go back. I am being faithful to the tone and meaning of his statement. But he also said during that press conference that Trump had obliterated Iran's nuclear capability. So for 30 years, that guy was saying that Iran was going to have nuclear weapons in 2 weeks. And now he is saying, how about that? 30 years they were going to get nuclear weapons, and now they're not going to get nuclear weapons. Trump took care of it. Isn't that amazing? So, I mean, go ahead.
No, land it.
My big picture since day one, which I presented on Devolution Power Hour 3 weeks ago and made people very angry, was that he was simultaneously ending all the narratives that would lead us into constant forever wars, the ones that they can pull out of their pocket anytime they want, direct the hatred toward the Muslims, say we need to go kill them before they kill us. And all of a sudden we have a military industrial complex boondoggle for 20 years. So I said he was getting rid of those stories and he was going to create separation with Israel. And now every headline is about how separation is being created with Israel, and Netanyahu is helping us in the cause of getting rid of all those stories.
Netanyahu announcing the obliteration, though, is the same, again, going back to Midnight Hammer. That's the same playbook from there, where he came out and said that. And now all of a sudden, 6 months later, well, what's June to February? 8 months, 7-8 months later, all of a sudden now they're on the cusp of a nuclear weapon again. And we're going to get into that because there is the kind of moving of the goalpost here. In terms of, the threat that Iran actually poses. I do want to real quick bring this up, though. TMZ is reporting that Chuck Norris is dead at 86 in an exclusive with details. And man, that can't possibly be true because I just saw him on a Rumble pre-roll in a Seattle Seahawks uniform tackling somebody. So I don't know how that could be. You haven't seen that pre-roll?
No.
There's a pre-roll of Chuck Norris in a football uniform. Looks to be like the Seahawks, talking about it. But yeah, it says he died Thursday morning in Hawaii, according to family, who said it is with a heavy heart that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and he was at peace. I feel like that was he's 86, right? It's always tragic when you lose somebody, but 86, man, there comes a time. But a good, well-placed Chuck Norris joke would have just been those like when I was in high school, like those were everything. Chuck Norris jokes were everything. Yeah. So I expect to see those going viral on X today, guys, in memory of Walker, Texas Ranger, the great one. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's because we'll come back to the whole narrative about the escalation with Iran and how they can perpetuate that and continue that going on forever and ever. But I do want to jump into this story here, Telegraph, kind of laying down that press conference a little bit more. Netanyahu bows to Trump pressure not to target Iran gas and oil, saying that, quote, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we are holding out. Israel struck Iran's South Pars gas field, the world's largest, on Wednesday. The president insisted he, quote, knew nothing about it. Tehran retaliated by targeting oil and gas facilities across the Gulf, further destabilizing the global economy. Netanyahu confirmed that Israel acted alone in the strike, which escalated the nearly 3-week-old war into a more dangerous phase. Okay, so nothing that we didn't really talk about already, but when I was scrolling through this, like one of those running update things here, Chris, I thought this was hilarious. The missile that changed the war. The magic missile is what I've dubbed this. the Israeli fighter jets. This is the propaganda here. You need the Ghost of Kyiv type story. He took on the whole entire world. The Israeli fighter jets moved into Iranian airspace around midday on Wednesday. Moments later, the F-35I Adir jets, supported by F-15 Ram and F-16 Sufa aircraft, reportedly released one or more Rampage supersonic air-to-surface missiles, long-range precision-guided projectiles designed to deliver a large explosive payload. Thousands of missiles have been fired by Israeli jets since the war started on February 28th. But this assault was different. It changed the course of the war. Wow. The Israeli targets the vast South Pars field, part of the world's largest natural gas field, and a resource that accounts for 80% of Iran's gas consumption. Moments after the missile struck, smoke and fire were seen rising from the facilities. The damage on the ground was the least of it. Wars escalate according to a fixed, if unwritten, set of rules that both sides understand. If you hit military targets, we hit military targets. If you hit transport infrastructure, we hit transport infrastructure. The magic missile. All right. Let's keep moving here. Again, we already covered that. I just thought that magic missile was the hilarious part right there. It was an F-35 that delivered it, by the way.
Yeah. So F-35I Adir, are these like the Israeli versions?
Yes.
Okay.
Which supposedly, I guess there's certain technologies that we aren't selling to anybody on the F-35. I don't know if they have if I knew the nomenclature of it, I'd probably know, but I know like the Air Force F-35 is only capable of like normal takeoff, but the Marine version is capable of vertical takeoff, like the Harrier. So yeah, I don't know which version they have.
Did you see the story yesterday about how one of our F-35s had gotten shot?
Yeah.
Isn't that not supposed to ever happen? I mean, I'm just asking, wasn't that the lore about the F-35?
It was, I mean, it's supposed to be resistant to, surface to air missiles and, radar guided missiles and things like that. But, who knows,
who knows if any of it's true. So.
Well, I was about to say, who knows if they actually shot it down?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that they said they shot it down. I think that it got hit with some rounds and then landed safely.
If it got hit with rounds, then there's nothing you can do to defend that. The only thing that can defend against, bullets like that is the A-10. That thing is a freaking monster, the A-10. But if the F-35 got hit by 50 caliber or larger, 20, 30 millimeter, yeah, it'll go down. Anything will go down.
Sure.
But it's supposed to be resistant to radar guided and
right.
heat guided and all that stuff. So who knows? Again, who knows if that story is true? Iran's just trying to get some victories here and there. Who knows if any of it's true?
Well, yeah, and it's hard to know what will happen since the next Top Gun movie hasn't come out.
Exactly. We need what will it be? Top Gun Maverick. What will the next one be?
Top Gun Maverick 2.
Top Gun Uranium Ultimatum.
Top Gun Isfahan. Now they don't have the ventilator shaft to shoot the missile down, so they need to figure out some other way. Maybe they'll put like a drill on the front of the plane, and the plane can just drill down into the ground itself. It's going to be a kamikaze mission.
And we don't have any more F-14s in Iran, so we can't get the nostalgic Tom Cruise flying the F-14 out when he goes to Dave Goose's son.
Well, maybe he can go get an F-14I from next door.
An F-35I.
There you go.
All right, let's jump into this story. From CBS News, UN nuclear watchdog chief says, quote, a lot has survived of Iran's nuclear capabilities, in stark contrast to what we just heard from Netanyahu yesterday. Now, what's really interesting with this, Chris, is who the person is saying this. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog agency said that, quote, a lot has survived, end quote, of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and military operations alone cannot destroy them. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, said, quote, there's been a lot of impact on the program. One cannot deny that this has really rolled back the program considerably. Although, I'm very skeptical about these metrics, days, minutes, months, because everything is relative. But my impression is that once the military effort comes to an end, we will still inherit a number of major issues that have been at the center of all of this. Grossi said one of those issues is Iran's inventory, of uranium. That was weird. I tried to swallow it. I couldn't. Issues of Iran's inventory of uranium at 60% enrichment, as well as facilities, infrastructure, and equipment, which could be damaged. The reason this is interesting to me, Chris, is I was talking about this guy last night on Sit Rep as well, Rafael Grossi, and I completely I called it IEPA, thinking of the tariffs, and it's supposed to be IAEA. So apologize for that. I don't know why IEPA popped in my head instead of IAEA. But Rafael Grossi was the guy that was the kind of nonpartisan party to the negotiations between Kushner and Witkoff and Aragchi before the attacks took place in Oman. And he's the one that came out after and said he felt like they were productive talks and, some other things that were signaling that this could, end up good, but still a long, long way to go. And now he's coming out and saying, well, you guys didn't actually destroy any of Iran's nuclear, capabilities. Again, I don't know how he knows this, if we're relying.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like he knows any of it. I mean, his comments don't suggest that he knows any of it. He says things like, you can't deny that the program has been severely damaged. Well, what the hell does that mean? Yeah. Is it ended? Does severely damaged mean like they blew a hole in the side of their favorite building? I mean, what does that mean? It's impossible to know. It's impossible for him to know. And CBS is having him on as like the world's premier expert. This is the best agency to know these things. This is the best guy at the best agency. Therefore, this guy knows things. No, he doesn't know things. Gosh, man, what a strange world we live in.
Well, here we go. Defense Department, the Defense Department, or we call it War Department here in America. I guess CBS News, foreign, whatever, has prepared several options for the president regarding the next steps in the conflict. President Trump has not made up his mind on whether he would send U.S. forces into Iran and seize the nuclear material. Grossi said removing cylinders with the material would be difficult. Quote, I'm not saying it's impossible. I know that there are incredible military capacities to do that, but it would be very challenging operation for sure.
What does he know about that?
Exactly. What do you know about our capabilities to extract uranium? What happens if you bomb uranium? Like if we just drop a GBU bunker buster on these uranium, fields or storage facilities, excuse me. What happens? Do we get a nuclear explosion? Does it just like dissolve?
Well, you're definitely asking the wrong guy.
I mean, I don't know. Is that like a dirty bomb? Like a GBU that blows up a bunch of uranium? Does the radiation just like permeate throughout the air?
You got me, buddy. The idea that we had been sold for a couple of weeks was that if you wanted to get that enriched uranium, you were going to have to send in ground forces. So
yeah, well, we'll get to that.
That's where it gets really dirty.
We'll get to that. Grossi said the IAEA did not see, quote unquote, major activity by Iran to rebuild its enrichment capacity before the U.S. and Israel started the strikes, but said, quote, a lot has still survived. Grossi said the extensive program underscores the need for diplomacy to deal with Iran's nuclear program after combat operations. It's going to be needed. Now, here's something interesting here. DNI Gabbard told the Senate on Wednesday that the intel community assessed that Iran's nuclear program was, quote unquote, obliterated last year in the strikes dubbed Operation Midnight Hammer. Gabbard said, quote, there has been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. The entrances to the underground facilities were bombed, have been buried, and shuttered with cement. The reason that that's so interesting to me is because the Joe Kent op, right? Joe Kent came out and said Israel was no imminent threat to the United States. Everybody's blasting him for that.
Iran.
Who did I say?
Israel.
Oh, Iran. Freudian slip. Iran is not a Freudian slip, guys. Iran is not a threat to the United States, but Kent says, obviously that he felt that they were not the imminent threat. Well, Gabbard and everybody else, well, not so much Gabbard, but everybody else came out and said, well, he wasn't in these briefings. He had no idea. He was NCTC, National Counterterrorism Threat Center. Now you have Gabbard saying the same thing. Gabbard is under oath in front of the Senate saying there's been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capabilities. And we had Netanyahu and President Trump themselves come out and say that, it was obliterated. It's not there. And so, I mean, again, I think that the Kent resignation was part of the op. It's part of the disclosure. Kent is now separated from the agency, from the federal government, and he's now able to say these things publicly and get a huge platform. By the way, that's absurd that somebody goes from a high DNI level position and the next day they're on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, totally. And they had a relationship before, as did Tulsi. And Joe Kent was one of the people discussed by Nick Fuentes when he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. So there's, a lot of back and forth to that whole thing. We'll see how that stuff ultimately goes. The interesting thing about Tulsi, Laura Loomer had a post last night that Ghost shared in our Telegram chat about Tulsi Gabbard that I thought was kind of interesting. And just listening, I was listening to War Room the other day. John Solomon was on and they were covering the hearing. I think this was Wednesday. And John Solomon was kind of chiding Tulsi Gabbard a bit for having all this intelligence that she definitely had. And he was certain that she had, and was certain, of course, that must be real, because I don't know why he was certain about that. But that she wasn't relaying it and telling the proper stories in the hearing, and that she should have done XYZ because she has all this information now. Well, some of the information he was referring to was 5 years old, and it's information that's been out there for a long time. And for him to then present it as current information kind of put me off a little bit. But there's something interesting going on with Tulsi and a few different angles that are kind of degrading her standing this week.
So yesterday when we were talking, I think it was yesterday when we were talking about the Joe Kent story, we read the statement that Tulsi had put out through the DNI X, and summarizing here, she basically said it's the president's own discretion what he determines is and is not an imminent threat. And she doesn't chime in one way or the other saying, President Trump was right, it was an imminent threat, or Joe Kent is right and there was no imminent threat. But when you take that broad, safe statement, that's why I called it yesterday, a safe statement, and then you look at what we're seeing with this statement right here, that they weren't trying to restore their nuclear capabilities. They're not the only ones that are saying that. There's a lot of people out there that are saying they were not trying to restore the nuclear weapons capabilities, but they were still seeking out a civilian nuclear program, which again, I've since the end of time, I've always said that they should absolutely have a nuclear program for power and whatnot. I think everybody should be allowed to do that. But
and they're also setting up those arrangements with neighboring countries too. There are like coalitions forming about Iranian nuclear energy, which again is one of the things that makes me say this whole thing is just a cover story for an energy changeover that was either going to happen as a product of the Great Reset or is being redirected to thwart the Great Reset. And I think that that's all that's going on. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No. I think you're right. And I think that a nuclear powered Iran, as well as their allies in that region, or their neighbors in that region, I shouldn't necessarily phrase them as allies, is a huge threat to to the greater Israel concept. And so who knows, man. But watch this pivot here from Netanyahu. CNBC, Netanyahu says Iran is being quote unquote decimated, but revolution requires a ground component. There it is. Netanyahu on Thursday said, quote, Iran is being decimated in the U.S. as the U.S. and Israel target its ballistic missile and nuclear programs from the air. But he added that meaningful regime change will require a quote unquote ground component. You don't want to replace one Ayatollah with another, Netanyahu said. You don't want to replace Hitler with Hitler.
I didn't know there were that many Hitlers. I thought this guy was like singularly evil in the history of man, and now just everybody's a Hitler.
I mean, he invoked Hitler. There we go.
Yeah.
You have to take it seriously. And if you criticize ground troops now, you are an anti-Semite who is a Holocaust denier and a Hitler lover.
That is right.
Because he invoked.
You've got it. You've got exactly. You are understanding the rules.
He said the Iranian people must ultimately, quote unquote, rise to the moment. We can create the conditions, but they have to, they have to exploit those conditions at a certain point. A revolution can come, quote, only from the air, cannot come, quote, only from the air. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing them, but there has to be a ground component. It does note that the comments came hours after President Trump, speaking in the Oval Office, said he would not send U.S. troops to the Middle East.
Weren't there reports that was already happening this week?
Yeah, we mentioned yesterday that there's the USS Tripoli is a Marine Expeditionary Unit, and it's got about 2,500 Marines on there, and it is steaming its way to the Strait of Hormuz, but apparently it's not going to get there until June, so which is very odd. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's a couple of months. That's not a lot of steam.
No, that's not a lot of steam. And, I had another, let's say, source that is going to be, and, he maintained OPSEC with me, but he's going to be deploying to that area here soon. And they're going in June as well. So, when you look at kind of the grand scheme, you've got the Tripoli going there. You've got this guy going there. And I'm not going to say anything about Branch or anything. He was good. But we're sending more troops over there, and it seems like a theme that June is when we're sending them all over there. So I don't know what to make.
Well, that's interesting. Well, I mean, that's really the birthday party phase, if we're to believe that phase is happening, as Trump has been saying for a few years. Maybe it's a rug, but that whole kind of June 14th to July 4th feels like that 250th birthday period. It seems like there's maybe a lot going on then. That'd be cool. Not trying to date fag, but I think that's been a date I've had my eye on for years now, and I still think that there's some reason to think there's something going on there. The other interesting thing you mentioned, Netanyahu wanting the people to rise up on the ground and then maybe be supported by Israel or the United States, whatever. There were reports this week that certain Israeli officials were saying that the Iranian regime that remains in place will slaughter all of these protesters if they take to the streets. So there are some Israeli officials encouraging them to rise up, and there are other Israeli officials telling them that they are going to be slaughtered if they rise up. So we are, again, full discombobulator. The point with the discombobulator is there are all these enemy narratives that are going to be presented, and a war gives them a great opportunity. Everybody's eyes are on the same subject. Everybody's paying attention to what's happening in the Iran war. And so the enemy can just launch narrative after narrative after narrative after narrative. And the way to thwart those things is by mentioning the possibility of those stories being told before they are actually told. We've talked about this for a couple of years. I call this like false starting those stories. The first time I kind of thought about this was back when Alex Jones was like, there's a pandemic coming in 3 weeks. Now, I don't know if a pandemic was coming or not, but I know that if it's national news that the government's or whoever is going to release a pandemic on the public, and someone says it a month before and everyone's heard it. Well, if you're going to tell everybody that a pandemic has been released, a lot of people are going to respond to that with a significant degree of doubt that they wouldn't have otherwise responded with. And so I think that that's the point of a lot of these stories. They get told in advance of an enemy narrative, because if you have all the information, then you know what narrative plays the enemy has up its sleeve. And so if you want to thwart those plays in advance, you'll tell their stories before they can, so that people know, so that they already wrestle with it in some sense, and it blunts the emotional response that might otherwise occur.
They've already drawn their own internal sides. They've already, decided which way they're going to go. And it's difficult from that point. If you believe the mainstream media, you jump in on that side. And if you tend to believe Alex Jones. There's nothing that the mainstream media could ever say to convince you one way or the other. And that's how the information war continues to cycle on.
Yes. But also, I will say, like, there are people out there who don't like Alex Jones and would never believe a thing that he said. But if they get that viral news in their face, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, they start hearing that there's a pandemic out there, they'll be like, wait, Alex Jones was just talking about this. These guys know something, you know? And if you know something, then it's really hard to make the event seem like it's naturally occurring out in the world, just spontaneous and organic as it's presented. And as soon as you know there's an intention behind the event, well, then the event takes on an entirely different meaning.
All right, so let's jump in. We've got a press conference, a clip here from Secretary Hegseth at the press conference yesterday, calling for more funding.
$200 billion. I think that number could move. Obviously, it takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond. I mean, President Trump, as he said, rebuilt the military in his first term, didn't think he'd use it as dynamically in his second, but he had. So thank goodness he did that. And an investment like this is meant to say, hey, we'll replace anything that was spent. And now that we're reviving our defense industrial base and rebuilding the arsenal of freedom and cutting deals like our great deputy secretaries here is doing, long lead times on exquisite munitions, we're going to be refilled faster than anyone imagined. And I think, we're also still dealing with the environment that Joe Biden created, which was depleting those stockholds and not sending them to our own military, but to Ukraine, which is every time we reach back and look at any sort of a challenge we have, it goes back to, well, send it to Ukraine. Ultimately, we think this should be these munitions are better spent in our own interests at this point. And this kind of funding bill is going to ensure that we're properly funded going forward.
The Arsenal of Freedom. There's the new moniker. $200 billion they're asking for from Congress.
So $200 billion on top of 1.5 trillion, right? That 1.7 trillion total now.
Yeah, let's jump into this here. The AP breaks it down. Pentagon seeks $200 billion in additional funds for the Iran war. Pentagon sent the request to the White House, according to a senior admin official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Asked about the figure at a press conference Thursday, Secretary Hegseth did not directly confirm the amount, saying it could change. It's an extraordinarily high number and comes on top of extra funding the Defense Department already received last year in Trump's big tax cut bill. It would need to be approved by Congress, and it is not at all clear that such spending would have political support. While the House and Senate are controlled by the president's party, many of the more conservative lawmakers are also fiscal hawks. I literally laughed out loud when I read that. Right. With little political appetite for big spending or military operations or other matters. The requested amount would be a hefty boost for the Pentagon's annual budget, which Congress approved at more than $800 billion for the current fiscal year. That's on top of the some $150 billion that Congress gave the Defense Department or War Department in last year's tax cut bills, much of it for specific projects and overall upgrades to the Pentagon's operations. To muscle a package to passage, Republican leaders could either try to go it alone through an arduous budget process or cut deals with Democrats on other priorities that would likely balloon the overall price tag.
Wasn't last week the op about all the lobster tails and whatnot that Pete Hegseth had been buying? So the Defense Department budget is that's kind of an interesting alignment on those stories. This is not related to the story, but you kind of were mocking the identification of the official, the anonymous official. I was thinking about that this morning. It is just such a ridiculous term. Official means someone from the government, basically. And senior official means someone who has worked for the government for a long time. And they have communicated that to us to mean this guy is someone that you can really trust. That's a little crazy that we have actually gotten taken for that ride. And still a lot of people are on it. Senior official. Wow, that's real news right there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, every single time we go off into conversations about conditions of anonymity, 5 sources familiar close to the matter, familiar with the matter, familiar with the matter. I'm familiar with the matter. I saw Secretary Hegseth up there saying we need 200 billion for the American arsenal of freedom. I'm familiar with the matter. So now I can comment on it and say whatever the hell I want, and they'll quote me anonymously, and they will use that information to propagandize people into feeling one way or another about this story. And it's absolutely absurd, which is why I mock it when I see it. So take it all with a grain of salt, of course. But, at the same time, Secretary Hegseth did say those things.
It really is amazing that their sources are someone said this.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all the sources. Someone said this.
And what moniker can I attach to their name in order to, or their identity, because there is no name,
right,
to make them sound more, credible. Yeah. So, but bottom line is another 200 billion on top of the 800 billion for the defense, plus, whatever goes into DARPA, there's all sorts of hidden slush funds and all that for that they get money from. I think you were closer to being accurate when you said 1.5 trillion in defense spending.
Yeah. Wasn't that what Trump was asking for like a couple of weeks ago? Wasn't he saying we need to kick it up to 1.5 trillion?
Yeah. Lift the debt ceiling again. The 200 billion, that all you guys out there, reach out for your checkbooks right now. It's about $1,300 each. So I need you guys all to write a check for $1,300 each and send it to Washington, D.C. This is not something that's going to go over well in the main normie spheres, the Fox News watchers. This is going to, hopefully he doesn't get it. We've already got clips of full blown MAGA saying hell no. Here's Lauren Boebert saying that.
I will not vote for a war supplemental. No, I am a no. I've already told leadership I am.
Who is that, by the way?
Yeah, that ain't Lauren Boebert. I mean, what's going on here?
Maybe the glasses, I don't know.
Must be the glasses.
Clark Kent. She puts the glasses on. She's Lauren Boebert. She takes them off. Who the fuck is that?
No, supplementals. I am so tired of spending money elsewhere. I am tired of the industrial war complex getting all of our hard-earned tax dollars. I have folks in Colorado who can't afford to live. We need America First policies right now, and that I'm not doing that. We need the Save America Act, FISA with warrants. There's a lot of hard lines that I have right now, and we've got to get our act together if we want to keep this majority. And the path that we're going doesn't look very promising.
Should the administration get out of Iran?
That's up to the president.
As she says this with like a whole row of like $120,000 SUVs right behind her there. Again, here's the old, we've got to get our act together. We've heard that for our entire lives. Congress, we got to get our act together. And here we are, $40 trillion in debt. Nobody gets their act together. We voted down a resolution to amend the Constitution to require Congress to pass a balanced budget yesterday or 2 days ago. I didn't even know that. Did you know that?
I knew it only because maybe it was John that told me or something.
It was probably me.
Maybe it was you. Yeah.
I put it in our chat yesterday.
Yeah. So then it was you.
I didn't even know that, but Andy Biggs introduced it. So hat tip to Andy Biggs for that. But
did you see Trump's post this morning?
I looked, I didn't see anything.
So he had, he's been talking about how nothing can get done until the Save America Act is done. And so things are happening. Then this morning he writes that we must pass the farm bill now. And I just replied to him, and I'm not suggesting that he's reading my replies and responding, but I replied even before the Save America Act. And then 5 minutes later, he posts about how the Save America Act must get done right now. Oh, man. So we got a lot of things that are supposed to be the first thing happening is what I'm saying. It's even that is a little discombobulating, to be honest.
Again, this is going to, when this gets, fully disseminated amongst the people, this is going to be one of those wildly unpopular things, another 200 billion. And we're 14 days. No, not 14 days. What are we? 3 weeks into the war?
We are 18, I believe.
I think tomorrow's 3 weeks.
That's
no,
right, yeah.
tomorrow's 3 weeks. Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday to Saturday to
Oh,
Saturday.
yeah, sorry. So that would be 20.
Today's day 20 of the war. The point you brought up earlier about the 250th on July 4th, bro, this has to be over by then, man. Like,
Right. Well,
you're gonna completely and totally and maybe that is the end game on this, is some massive announcement that we finally brought peace to the Middle East. Iran has completely capitulated, and now we've got, Pezeshkian or whoever the hell it is, civilian leadership back in control, secular leadership, no more clerics, no more Ayatollah. Who knows if that's what's going to happen? But if we have this war lingering over our head, I mean, you're going to have some of your neocon normies out there. They're like, yeah, 4th of July, 250, America's out there still kicking ass. 200 billion, guys. Write your check for $1,300.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you want to see the funniest? I like Harry Hinton. I do. You want to see the funniest clip I've ever seen in my whole entire life from him?
Sure.
And this plays on to what I was just saying about a lot of people are gonna have a sour taste in their mouth after this, request for more budget. Check this out, though.
And this is one of those, because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Now, there are some Republicans who disapprove of Donald John Trump, but they are not members of the Make America Great Again movement. The bottom line is this: if you are a member of MAGA, you approve of Donald Trump.
It's like he's ordering us around.
Like, these are not the droids you are looking for, right? Oh, wait.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Donald Trump is a Sith Lord.
100%. I mean, you'd think maybe they were trying to suggest that we're a cult, but I think it's especially interesting because we're also getting another round of MAGA infighting this week. Those stories about how MAGA is breaking apart because Megyn Kelly is saying that Mark Levin has a micro penis. I mean, when did that? Oh yeah. Oh, dude. Look. I mean, here, I'll show you. This is video. I posted this yesterday on Substack. This is video from an Australian news.
Below we go micro penis. That's the way it's going to be.
People are calling this the podcast wars. They seem to be enjoying it a little bit too much.
What is going on with MAGA right now?
He needs to go. I really believe that he needs to be impeached under the Democrats.
It's a betrayal on the level that I don't think people who aren't in those groups can understand. Like, this is heartbreaking.
If you had to grade his leadership during this time in our country right now, what would you give him?
I mean, A+ right now. I think that it is and has the potential to be a true game changer for America's role in the world, not only for the next 10 or 20 years, but for the coming century.
While Donald Trump continues his war with Iran from the White House, there is a civil war blowing up online between conservative commentators. It's all to do with the war in Iran. Some support it while others oppose it and say it's not the America First mindset they were promised.
And stop focusing on downtown Tehran.
Shame on you, woke right neo-fascists. You will be remembered as the unpatriotic, anti-American Jew haters that you are.
We're the avant-garde. We're the cutting edge, and I don't want to be at the table with Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, self-appointed control freak jokes.
It's getting really personal too. Fox News host Mark Levin called right-wing podcaster Megyn Kelly emotionally unhinged for not supporting the US military action. So then she said this.
I tweeted at Mark Levin this weekend something to the effect of, I'm very sorry about his micro penis. Which I really enjoyed. I thankfully have never had to look at it firsthand, but you can just tell. No one's that angry and misogynistic. Who doesn't have that problem?
I mean, she sounds
say
like
that she enjoys Mark Levin's micro penis.
I think she enjoyed calling it that, but
she said I called him micro penis Mark, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, she sounds like a liberal feminist in that. Like she's doing dick jokes. Really?
I love this, man. That was the greatest video I think I've seen. The lines are being drawn.
Yes.
Choose a side. Are you full-blown MAGA Zionist or are you full-blown anti-MAGA but America first? I love it, man.
The funny thing about that is that none of those people are MAGA. You know,
I know.
And people would say, "Oh, well, Tucker might be." Okay, well, Tucker might be fine. You know, Bannon, of course, is, but the rest of them just have never been MAGA. They're always sometimes Trumpers. That's their thing. And the sometimes Trump is for alignment with Trump's base so that they seem like allies and friends, because we are always desperate for allies and friends. But the rest of the time, it's just them introducing the poison pill to Trump's base.
Again, this is why I believe if there was going to be, the Save Israel for Last expose, this is, I think, how it would have to play out. This is exactly how it would have to play out. You would have, your competing factions in the podcast sphere. I mean, and I think now that I think about it even more, so when I watched that Joe Kent interview yesterday, I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. This guy should know some things. But then it got to the Charlie Kirk part, and I was like, this is weird. Like, this is just like Joe Kent's telling the story that he's walking through the stairs in the West Wing, and he sees Charlie Kirk, and they're not very close. They know each other, but they're not very close. And Charlie Kirk is just like, please, Joe, don't let him go to war with Iran. Like, what?
It is so crazy.
Yeah, like of all the things, like when I'm walking through the hall, if I see somebody that I'm like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Not, hey, please don't let him go to war with Iran.
Yeah. Isn't it weird that the assassination could have spawned all of these scripts with their intricacy and their timing and the rest of it? Gosh, it's so strange that this spontaneous, organic, real assassination could have spawned all of these various storylines that just so happen to revolve around that event and are also misaligned with Donald Trump.
Well, I definitely agree that it lends credibility to the claims that this assassination was deliberate. It was a deliberate way to thwart the influence that he has. I mean, because again, we've said this many times, like him or not, the influence that he had over the generation, the college age generation right now, the future of America, was astronomical.
Well, you don't think that's overstated? I think that's significantly overstated. I think that.
No, I don't.
I don't think Charlie Kirk was a national figure before the assassination.
No, I do. I absolutely do. And here's why. I have brothers and sisters that are college age. Well, one of them's past college now, and the other ones are college age. And I have a brother and a sister that are full blown MAGA, and then I've got a brother that's completely anti MAGA. And like my sister cried when he died, like, and loved his content and everything. My brother was upset about it, but my oldest brother, the one that's anti-MAGA, today, still to this day, Charlie Kirk was a flaming racist and chauvinist and misogynist and everything else. Not chauvinist, but
I get it. I'm just wondering how much of that emotion and sentiment and commitment to Charlie Kirk's messaging or not came as a product of the September event or was already there prior. And I'm just saying, I think prior to that, the attention on Charlie Kirk was minimal. He was a figure in the podcast sphere on the kind of corporate MAGA side of things, who was promoted heavily by manipulated algorithms and the mainstream media as the leader of a movement that I don't think he had any actual leadership in. I mean, we don't need to get off on a sidebar conversation about that.
Well, both things can be true. Sure. I mean, he can be a creation of the algorithm. I don't disagree with that. I mean, if they took our content and we had the algorithm of Meta or YouTube or whatever, and they were putting our content at Badlands out, in front of everybody, there's no question. People believe what they're going to want to believe, what's going to make them feel good, their confirmation bias. And so everybody that hears what we're talking about that says, and this is why, there's so many issues with, as soon as you say something controversial, like when I play that when I talk about the Hegseth clip and I say MAGA's not going to be happy about $1,300 per taxpayer to fund this war. And that's just the start. We're only 20 days in. It's going to continue as long as this war continues. You say something like that, and the people that don't want to hear that are mad at you. And it's the same thing with the algorithm. If these college kids hear, and there are a lot of conservative college kids. This generation is pretty based compared to previous generations. We're past the screaming green hair. Well, it's kind of funny since my wife had green hair like 2 months ago. But anyways, my point is so in that interview, Kent brings up the Charlie Kirk, invokes the Charlie Kirk, and says, as NCTC, we wanted to investigate other facets of the crime, the assassination, that we weren't allowed to. The FBI kept us out, handed over, all that stuff, creating the seed that, was this, the voice that you had to take away in order to manufacture support for this war. And it's really weird feeling. It's got op vibes for me.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with you about that take. Yeah, I'm just the idea that like Charlie Kirk was the thing standing between us and a narrative war with Iran is nonsensical as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think and this is the last thing I'll say on this, but the reason that I think he was so instrumental in this, or could have been instrumental in this, is because he was, a pretty outspoken Zionist prior to this. And as soon as the threat of a kinetic war actually presented itself, it seemed like his position on that was changing dramatically. And, in my opinion, that would be, fully what MAGA would represent. America first. Like, why are we going to Iran? Joe Kent saying there's no imminent threat. I don't know, man. It is a massive psychological operation, and we could probably talk for 3 hours about this before even coming to any consensus on it. So,
for sure. Yeah, we can leave it there.
All right, let's leave that there. The Saudis aren't too happy about the attacks, and I promise this will be the second to last thing on this situation here. But let's play this clip here. This is what agency is this? I don't even know what agency this is. You know what? Let's skip this. Screw it. Let's go straight to the source and talk about this is the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia.
Believe in talking to its neighbors. It tries to pressure its neighbors. And what I can say categorically, that's not going to work. The kingdom is not going to succumb to pressure. And on the contrary, this pressure will backfire. Will backfire politically, will backfire, I believe, morally, and certainly, as we have stated quite clearly, we have reserved the right to take military actions if deemed necessary. And if the time comes, the leadership of the kingdom will take the necessary decision. We will not shy away from protecting our country and our economic resources. And the main point here is that the Iranians continue to target economic resources and continue to attack the livelihoods of ordinary Saudis. When I see an attack today, 2 refineries in Riyadh were attacked. What's the purpose of that? What possible military purpose can you have for attacking a refinery in a non-combatant? So the Iranians will have to understand that this has consequences.
All right. So the Arab states are getting a little bit ticked off. I do actually need to play this because this was posted by Bricks. I do want to play this. Do you want to comment on that, or
no? Let's continue.
Okay, let's play this real quick because she uses a very interesting term here to describe Iran's actions towards Saudis.
He went on to say that Iran's actions would backfire politically and morally. He talked about the fact that he felt that Iran attacking Riyadh and also Qatar, the Ras Laffan industrial complex in Qatar, while this diplomatic meeting was ongoing in Riyadh, was an attempt for the Iranians to blackmail Arab and Islamic countries. He said they would not be blackmailed, they would not be intimidated. And he also said that they were very clear that there would be non-political options on the table.
Okay, so the term blackmail is an interesting term. I don't know if that's like using that, blackmail because they're hitting Riyadh's, gas facilities or, oil fields, whatever the case might be. The term blackmail just kind of sat odd with me. But Iranians continue this, bombing threat to Qatar, to the Saudis. And the Saudis, at some point, it sounds like they're going to say, enough is enough, and they're going to push back and enter the arena. And
well, it sounds like on some level they're kind of involved, and I think that was, at least this is what I took away from his comments about how they were non-combatants. They are not engaged in combat there, but they certainly have a side in what is happening, and I would suggest that their side is with Donald Trump, which is not the same as they are the enemies of Iran, because, from under the paradigm I operate in, and talking about good twin versus evil twin in geopolitics, there are factions in Iran that are perfectly friendly to Donald Trump, and there are factions that oppose Donald Trump. And the same thing is true in every nation around the world. And so when you are making comments about Iran without the specificity on which factions we are talking about, I think that the geopolitical operators are with the knowledge they have access to that we do not have access to. We have to understand that they are speaking, and their words, their language, their beliefs are product of information that we don't have access to. So to take it just like straight up as they are definitely referring to the Iranian regime under the son of the Ayatollah operating the IRGC and all these other elements, that's not necessarily the case. Just like it's not the case where if a foreign official was talking about elements of the United States government, well, if they're talking about California Democrats, and we as, citizens of that foreign population think that means the American government is doing something under Donald Trump, and then ascribe that behavior to Trump, well, we've really missed the boat on something, because we're conflating two totally oppositional parties and their priorities. And so I think it's always important to keep that in the back of the head when listening to stuff like this, because then the Saudi comments kind of take on a little bit of a different character there.
The Saudis did put out another, well, not another, I think this might be their first AI video game.
Wow.
All right. I've seen my share of moat videos given my time in the Marine Corps and all that stuff. And I got to say, I never thought I could get motivated by, the music preferences in the Middle East, but that's some pretty badass shit right there. Ready to go sign up.
Isn't it funny that all these countries are doing that?
Yeah.
Kind of like a little odd. And I mean, again, Trump had the post. I think John and I will talk about this tomorrow night, but Trump had the post earlier in the week talking about how Iran are the masters of media manipulation and have the ability and the competence to broadcast a fake war. Huh. Gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. As we're playing Tropic Thunder clips and pissing off Ben Stiller,
right,
to motivate people. DOJ put this out. Justice Department disrupts Iranian cyber-enabled psychological operations. The Justice Department announced a seizure of 4 domains as part of an ongoing effort to disrupt hacking and transnational repression schemes conducted by the Islamic Republic of Iran's Ministry of Intelligence. The seized domains were used by the MOIS, the intelligence service, in furtherance of attempted psychological operations targeting adversaries of the regime by claiming credit for hacking activities, posting sensitive data stolen during such attacks, and calling for the killing of journalists, regime dissidents, and Israeli persons. Jump down here in the specific events alluded to. An alleged court document says on March 11th, the Handala hack claimed credit for conducting a destructive malware attack against a U.S.-based multinational medical technologies firm. The Handala hack persona claimed that the hack was in retaliation for, quote, ongoing cyber assaults against the infrastructure of the axis of resistance, end quote. So we've got, Netanyahu invoking Hitler. You can't replace Hitler with a Hitler. And now we've got the axis of resistance, a callback to World War II there with the Italy, Japan, Germany alliance, which ironically, the Prime Minister of Japan was in the Oval yesterday. And we'll play that clip because that's a great one.
Yep.
The other thing that was interesting is that medical technologies firm, we covered this story, I think, last week or the week before. Well, if it's March 11th, it was last week. The name of the company was Stryker, Stryker. What an odd name for a medical company, a medical technology company, Stryker. Like that just sounds military industrial complex, aggressive, I don't know.
Or 80s metal band.
Yeah, definitely 80. Let's start a band called Stryker. All right. As of March 9th, the Handala hack posted the names and sensitive personal identifying information of approximately 190 individuals associated with or employed by the IDF and or the Israeli government. On March 6th, the Handala hack posted names and confidential data corresponding to individuals claimed to have worked for the IDF, and then posted in part, quote, your iPhone 12 Pro Max holds no security for us. We even know your exact location, end quote, and urged, quote, people of the axis of resistance, see these names and respond to these Zionist pigs yourself, end quote. Why are they still using iPhone 12s? Aren't we on like 17 now?
Well, you have to remember these are primitive sans people.
As the Dune 3 trailer is coming out. On March 6th, they claimed they stole 851 gigabytes of confidential data from members of the Sanzer Hasidic Jewish community, including, quote, documents of financial cooperation, witchcraft ceremonies, and secret correspondences with Netanyahu. Then this is my favorite part right here. It also revealed that the email account handalateam@outlook.com, because when you're hacking, you use Microsoft. Outlook is Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, you make sure you definitely use Microsoft Outlook to conduct your hacking operations. Was used to send death threats to Iranian dissidents and journalists living in the United States and abroad. The Handala hack offered bounties and openly called for Mexican cartel, quote unquote, partners to commit acts of violence against Handala's hack's targets. Quote, we are the Handala hack team. We declare war on all the enemies of the Islam in the West. Our partners at the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the CJNG of America and Canada, have been given a list of our enemies who are responsible for our great leader's death. Redacted names. You laughed like hyenas during the redacted show. We have hacked and revealed your home addresses to our partners in the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, who are now in the United States, redacted state, and redacted foreign countries. Both of you will be executed soon, and we have offered a $250,000 reward to the operatives who kill and behead both of you. What the fuck?
There's a lot there. So they are in communication with the Mexican cartels in the United States and Canada. That's interesting. The claims about what this Hasidic Jewish community was doing, do we have any verification about whether or not those documents
true?
Yeah. I mean, that's not great.
That was my first thought. I went back and I'm like, is there like an alleged or like, they falsely claimed, like, where are those, those labels right there that we're so used to, baselessly claim that they're doing witchcraft ceremonies. Like maybe we should look into that. But yeah,
I wonder if this is going to be one of those instances of this stuff being put out there publicly. Now it's on the record, the quote unquote official record, And so if we start hearing about the CJNG cartel running hits in America, for instance, we're going to look back immediately to this and we'll be like, oh, that's definitely a real story.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to is is this the escalation on the threat to the home front right now?
Yeah.
Joe Biden let 20 million or 12 million illegals across the border over the last 5 years. And yes, we know that there were known terrorist cells that got into the United States, the sleeper cells now. And, is that the next phase of this quote unquote war is to, fearmonger that now the threat is on our homeland. And it's not just the Iranian sleeper cells, but the cartels now are going to side with them in the takedown of America. It sounds like if that's the case, maybe we should, I don't know, well, DHS is defunded right now. There it is. There it is. We got to refund DHS because the CJNG is coming after. Who are they talking about, by the way? I feel like that couldn't be hard to figure. Let me pull that back up. Who are they talking about here? Because they say redacted names. You laugh like hyenas during the redacted show. So I'm assuming that this is like two people that went on like a podcast or something like that. And we're laughing about the Iranian.
I'll tell you, there's one podcaster who laughs like a hyena.
Tucker, yeah. Huh. Redacted names. You laughed like hyenas during. We have hacked and revealed your home address. I mean, I don't feel like.
And what's the date on that communication? Because this is back. Is this last week?
It says March 1st, 2026.
Okay.
But I can't imagine it being Tucker because Tucker, like that's the new Dan Crenshaw claim. I don't know if you saw that they've hacked, they hacked. The CIA didn't hack Tucker's cell phone communications, but they hacked the foreigner that he was communicating with. And what an absurd concept, by the way, that you can hack a foreigner under FISA, and I've talked about this before, and therefore get access to an American citizen. And, with Crenshaw saying these things, like, you better have something damning that Tucker's talking about if you're throwing around, foreign agent FARA violations against Tucker for, talking to these people. It better be more than just like, hey, you want to come on my show? Like that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's great that you mentioned this because I think, I think it was John that mentioned it the other day. I guess FISA's, the 702 is coming up for renewal soon. So that could be a factor in that conversation and the story building around that conversation. So it's not surprising then to see a character like Tucker have an issue like that come up right now to call the public's attention back to it before the conversation about the renewal begins.
All right. Well, let's move on from the Iran war. Finally, we'll just play this real quick because I don't have any insight to this meeting at all. But President Trump with the Prime Minister of Japan was epic right here.
Question for the Prime Minister. Let me pick a beautiful person from Japan. A question for the Prime Minister. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, he doesn't believe he's beautiful. Oh, he's just sounding shy. Go ahead, please.
Of course, no, Japan and US are very good friends. But one question: why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay. Right? He's asking me. Now you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise. Right?
I don't know, man. I still stand by. We were the one that was surprised, at least to an extent. But that was hilarious.
That is hilarious. Did you see the Japanese Prime Minister get out of the car and greet Donald Trump?
I did. We talked about that last night on Sit Rep. she gave him a hug instead of bow, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and I mean, I'm not an expert on Japanese culture at all, but I'm pretty sure the bow is reserved for men to men, and that a woman would actually hug, I guess. I don't know. We talked about that last night briefly, and Josh had said the same thing, that the hug was probably, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if it was because it's on U.S. soil, they acquiesce to our customs, and if Trump was in Japan, he would bow. I don't know.
Handshake,
yeah, that too.
Yeah,
that's a great point. I'm a hugger, man. Like if I meet you, I'm a hugger. So
well, that's cool, but not like the president.
I mean, if I was
official business,
with him.
She looked like she was like really deferential to him. It was like a very grovelly sort of hug. Like she basically put her head down and was like, that was it was optically strange, and especially considering that these are a particularly dignified and like reserved people
culture.
Yeah, certainly from what we are told and shown about them. And I've known some Japanese in my life who seem to agree that is how their culture is.
I just want to play this. It's only a couple 20 seconds, but I thought this was hilarious, and I knew that, like, I saw the post on this, and I knew this the Trump derangement syndrome retards out there were gonna eat this up. He's a racist. Check this out.
Thank you. Mr. President, you just mentioned Japan.
This looks like one of your people right here.
Thank you.
Is he good or bad? Good. Is he a good reporter or bad?
So.
Not a, all right. Looks like it does. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you just mentioned Japan.
I knew they were going to melt down. He looks like one of your people right there. Like, that's racist. How is that fucking racist? How is that racist?
Yeah.
He looks like literally. Let me just pull this up. Aaron Rupar. First of all, you knew where this was going to go when Rupar is posting this. Let's see. What do we got? Vince Wilson. Trump's racism on display for the millionth time. I just said the word has no meaning at this point. Racism, a belief that a race is fundamental determinant, is a fundamental detriment to human traits and capacities, and the racial differences produce superiority. I mean, am I right or am I right? Like, I guess we can't go up to somebody and be like, you definitely look like you're a black man.
I guess not. I just am imagining the Japanese officials, if Trump had traveled over there with some of his own reporters, if they would have to pretend that they don't know whether or not the Americans are Japanese. That is insane.
I thought that was hilarious. Okay. One more geopolitical story, I believe. Euro News, Argentina has officially left the World Health Organization. Javier Milei's government finalized Argentina's withdrawal from WHO, citing health sovereignty. Despite this, it assures that international cooperation in health will continue through bilateral and regional agreements. They had planned this a year ago, but apparently you have to give them notice. Like, hey, we're going to leave your organization in a year. So yeah, the decision was justified at the time by President Javier Milei as a response to quote unquote profound differences with WHO regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The president called the agency quote nefarious and the enforcement arm of what was the greatest experiment in social control in history.
That's funny. I would not suggest that they are the enforcement arm. They were an organizational body. The governments and the peoples of the nations in the world were the enforcement arm. We enforced it on ourselves. It is absolutely crazy. I mean, listen, I think the WHO shouldn't exist, and the United States definitely should not be part of any of these international organizations. And we may well be seeing the disclosure of the end of NATO, which I think is something that happened a few years ago. I don't want us in any of these international organizations, but the idea that it was the WHO enforcing these things. No, it was in America, it was the federal government, state governments, and local governments. And the state and local governments enforced it even more than the federal government did. And then the people themselves enforced it against one another with all sorts of shame and reputation manipulation and the rest of it. I mean, the WHO is like the body that disseminates the literature and the advice that then hospital organizations will put into action, or what do they call them? The doctors associations and stuff. All of them will take the WHO's advice in and then implement it in like systematic fashion. So the WHO has plenty to be blamed for, but the enforcement at a personal level, give me a break.
Well, that's the authoritative sources, right? The
Exactly.
World Health Organization is the authoritative sources. And so when we do this, we're justifying it by saying it, we're doing it at their behest, at their recommendation.
Indeed.
And therefore Malay is saying they're the culprit. No, they're not. You're the retard that did it.
Yeah.
You're the one that said the World Health Organization is the be all end all. We're not going to look at any information beyond that. We're going to call it all propaganda, fake news, mis and disinformation. We're going to censor them and ban them. And instead, we're going to take on the globalists at the World Health Organization that we pay a substantial amount of money to every year to continue this rhetoric. I'm done. So hat tip to Argentina. I know Malay's got some flack, recently.
Yeah.
Good move.
The thing that I think we should keep an eye on if we ever do run into another very deadly pandemic narrative deployed in our home, is that a lot of these states, even if the United States severs its membership permanently with an organization like the WHO, the states can still decide that they are going to conduct their business on the basis of the World Health Organization's guidelines. And we would be right back in the same place we were before. So it's important to remember the federal distinction there. And just to be clear for people, you were not saying that Malay was responsible for implementing the COVID policies in Argentina.
No,
because he wasn't even
No, he's gotten some pushback for other issues, mainly related to that country that you're not allowed to talk about with any sort of criticism, I should say. This was put out by the gov.uk, joint statement from the leaders of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Japan, and Canada on the Strait of Hormuz. Guess what? They're sending ships. They're sending ships. President Trump, he's got nobody behind him. Yep, here they come. Here they come. So I guess Iran attacked a ship, and they said that they're going to send some units there to protect that. And that's pretty much all I care about. This was a fascinating story from Tulsi Gabbard's testimony the other day. Check this out.
Okay. Director, the ODNI has confirmed on the record that your office took custody of voting machines from Puerto Rico last May. I'm not aware of any previous.
Oh, wait, that wasn't from this. Hold on. Did I get this wrong? That wasn't from.
No, I recall hearing that the other day.
Oh, well, it was the other day. Okay.
And
I think that this one was Wednesday, and maybe she did 2 hearings. Was that what it was?
I'm not sure, because I remember I watched that one and I didn't think she was wearing a pink jacket.
Okay. Yeah.
Director, the ODNI has confirmed on the record that your office took custody of voting machines from Puerto Rico last May. I'm not aware of any previous DNI taking similar actions. Did your office promptly notify the committee about taking custody of Puerto Rico's voting machines?
I don't believe we did. However, this was done at the request of the Puerto Rico AUSA attorney.
Ma'am, it's a yes or no question.
The
The answer,
FBI.
as you have acknowledged, is no. You did not inform the committee about the taking of a territory's voting machines. Is there a specific foreign threat? And I've read the reporting that you were looking for possible foreign threats, but is there a specific foreign threat that drove you to take this action?
There were questions about whether or not there were vulnerabilities that a threat could have taken advantage of, and that was the purpose for their requesting us to look into those vulnerabilities.
Where are those voting machines now?
I believe they are held in a secure facility at ODNI.
Have you or other ODNI officials taken any other state or territory's voting equipment into custody?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, so you've got the meltdown over the Puerto Rico machines coming back up again, and I reported on this back when it was exposed. Reuters broke the story and then had to correct some of the mis and dis and malinformation in Reuters' story on this. Puerto Rico asked them to do that. And the craziest part about this, Chris, and I didn't catch this until I just listened to it now. He says, did you inform the committee that you did this? What obligation does the DNI have to inform Congress about a request that was made by the AUSA and Puerto Rico? What obligation do they have to inform Congress of that, first and foremost? And to be fair, there might be an obligation, but if that's the case, then that means that all of these bureaucratic institutions are supposed to be informing Congress when they're taking these actions, which means we should be really fucking pissed off at Congress right now for for everything that they're doing.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with you there. Yeah. Principally, I think that the American people should have access to all of the government's information. I mean, that would be a much different world than we live in now. But the reason that they hide all this information from the American people and tell them it is just too important for them to know about is because they're not doing the thing that they pretend they are doing. So,
yeah. So we'll see what we get out of this. Again, they're making it sound they're trying so hard to disparage, to diminish Tulsi Gabbard here. And, I think Tulsi Gabbard is doing fantastic work. And I'm excited to see when it all comes together. And, a lot of this is coming from, some knowledge I have broadly about what's going on. And I'm looking forward to seeing when all of this gets put together into a nice little package. Hopefully it's very soon, because the midterms are coming up very, very, very right around the corner. But again, this is a nothing burger that they're trying to make it sound like Tulsi did something wrong when she was asked to be there. The DNI and the FBI were asked by the AUSA, come down here and take a look at this, because they had major problems with their machines back in the primaries, in the 2024 primaries, and they didn't know what the hell was going on. I think, and I saw Clay in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Puerto Rico actually canceled their Dominion contract because of those problems. So I might be wrong on that, but anyways.
Isn't it kind of weird that there is an orchestrated and scheduled narrative release to present the country with breaking news about things we knew 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That should be a little bit unsettling, right?
Well, and then how about the news not following up on something that should be a big deal, and they just let it disappear by the wayside? And that Puerto Rico story, we covered it. I know at Gateway we for sure covered it. I think I wrote the article about it. And then it disappeared. Like, that story just went completely gone. Like, nobody cared. Why? Because it might prove, or at least not prove, but it might support the claims that we've been making for forever. And so, Asa Wavana. That's all shows are why we vote now. That's Ash's phrase.
It's like, I have no idea what that means.
Asa Wavana. By the way, tune in to Why We Vote tonight, 7:30 p.m. We are going to have Peter Tickton on to talk about his election executive order. So stay tuned for that. All right, we're going to take some phone calls here, but we do have a couple stories that we're going to hit real quick. Axios, basically headlines. James Comey subpoenaed an alleged grand conspiracy against President Trump, so there we go. That story is making its way back to the surface again. And we've got Eileen Cannon's grand jury down there in Fort Pierce, a pro-MAGA jurisdiction. So let's see what happens with that. City Journal, Gavin Newsom's $114 million butterfly bridge, a bridge to nowhere. I think I heard you and John talking a couple weeks ago about a bridge to nowhere. Was that you guys?
Yeah. That was Alaska Senator Ted Stevens.
Well, here's another bridge to nowhere for you guys. In 2022, Newsom broke ground on the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing, an overpass for animals atop 10 lanes of the 101 freeway in SoCal. Newsom boasted that the state had committed $54 million fucking dollars so that mountain lions can cross a highway. You wonder why everybody's moving out of California. Newsom boasted that the state had committed $54 million, promised to complete the job with another $10 million, within another $10 million. Officials projected a 2025 completion date, and that estimate and estimated that the entire project would cost $92 million. some of it coming from private philanthropists. 4 years after the ceremony, the bridge is past due and the project is $21 million over budget. The world's largest wildlife crossing has become a jobs program for environmentalists with taxpayers on the hook. Within days of the announcement, the California Transportation Commission funneled another $18.8 million to the project. The new total price tag, $114 million, including $77 million in state funds. Congratulations, California. You have a fucking bridge over a highway for mountain lions to cross from one part to another. By the way, if you look at the map, let me see if I can pull this up. This was hilarious. If you look at the map of where the bridge actually goes, oh, you don't see it. It's like into a residential neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're taking mountain lions and you're letting them cross from the wild, and you're crossing.
I can't wait to hear what Ash has to say about all this.
Wait, here it is right here.
When we started stage 1 and we're waiting to start stage 2, the world changed beneath us, though. This spring, construction costs increased considerably. And although we were holding reserves to finish construction, all those are exhausted at this point because of tariffs, inflation, and so many other factors impacting construction projects, not just ours. So we need your help one more time to get us to the finish line and help us build back those reserves so that we can ensure that we finalize construction by November, so we can all
look. This is the model right here. Wild up here in the top, residential right here.
Yeah, I guess that's. I would want to know where that is. That. Oh man, it's hard to tell if this is just a rendering. I would have to know where it is. That's interesting.
I mean, I know it is a rendering, but I mean, I would imagine that the rendering is like realistic, right?
Highly accurate. Yeah, that's what I would think too, which is why I'm trying to figure out where those buildings are.
I mean, if I lived in these houses right here and I had pets, I'd be like, why did you do this?
Yeah, this I remember something from a few years ago, and maybe it was in Prussiagate or something, where they were talking about the global agenda relative to I think it's called the World Wildlife Fund. They took WWF. Are they the WWF? Yeah, they're the WWF now. And it was too elaborate for me to recall all of it right now, but I remember part of that agenda was making it so that they would kind of they would have these setups for animals so that the wildlife could continue to live even after the development of all of these areas. And so they would build these sorts of bridges so that they wouldn't get run over on the highways. They didn't want to disrupt the animal environment or ecosystem. Crazy stuff. But this is not an isolated thing, is my point.
Do you remember this is a decade ago, there was a recorded call or a phone call into a news broadcast, and they're like a news talk radio channel. And they're like, I want to talk to you guys about how stupid our government is. They built an animal crossing right in the middle of the highway. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, yeah, if you drive down the highway, there's a big yellow sign that says animal crossing. It's right across the highway. Like, why would you build an animal crossing for these animals where they're going to cross a busy highway? And the guy's like, what? Yeah, they built. And he's like, you realize that's to alert drivers that they may see an animal crossing the road, and no, it's so that they can walk across. But this level of retardation, dropping mountain lions off in your backyard, and the reason it's probably so far over budget, they of course blame it on, they blame it on tariffs and everything Trump, right? This is somehow Trump's fault, by the way. It's probably because you had to go out there and get a survey to see, is this bridge structurally sound? How many mountain lions can actually cross it at one given moment? What's the capacity of the mountain lions? What happens if a bear crosses it? Are there traps that are going to be set out here to make sure that evasive wildlife doesn't cross it? We got to make sure we're not affecting those little fish, remember the waters and the Palisades fire and the little fish? We got to make sure that's not it's so stupid, but okay. Two final stories that I just want to cover real quick that are hilarious. NASCAR, what the hell were you thinking? They've suspended this driver indefinitely for apparently mocking a gay guy. NASCAR. You're supposed to be fucking based NASCAR. The NHL is all we've got left in based sports.
I didn't know what he raced or anything. We did some like St. Pete promo stuff, and he was at it. And I thought he was one of like the Indy Next guys or like the Miata guy or something. I really didn't know.
Sorry, Emma. He plays for the other team, I think.
And I was like, so what do you, I was like, do y'all race any ovals? And he was like distraught that I asked him that question. Like, yeah, we raced Nashville and Iowa. I'm like, okay. I didn't know Miatas went to Nashville. He's like, why don't you eat your food? He's like, oh my gosh, yes. We race Indianapolis too. I love Indianapolis. And Roger Penske. I love Roger. Love you, Roger. As soon as I start doing a David Malukas gay voice, I hit a gold. So let's keep it going.
That has sent people into tantrums, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
As soon as I did a David Malukas gay voice, I got a gold. Apparently, by the way, I guess it's like a cool thing to podcast while you're opening NASCAR trading cards. I didn't even know those were actually a thing. Thought that was hilarious. And then the last thing, we'll open up the phone lines here. And well, actually, let me throw the banner up now so that people wait. Do I even have it ready to go? Yeah, I do, because I'm super cool. All right, there we go. I've got it open. While we're waiting, let's go ahead and play this. Palm Beach Pete, my hero.
Hey everybody, this is Palm Beach Pete, and my video went viral because some dude randomly filmed me while I was driving on I-95, unbeknownst to me. And the next thing I know, I'm a viral sensation. I had my phone down for about 4 hours, and I didn't know my phone was blowing up with all these comments from that video. So I got a lot of traction. It's pretty crazy. Thanks.
So you're not Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Palm Beach Pete.
Not a boy, yeah.
Okay. Peace out.
I mean, I'm not saying he's Jeffrey Epstein, but he looks more like Jeffrey Epstein than whatever it was they rolled out on the gurney from his cell.
If that's JFK Jr., wow, we're gonna have quite a party this summer.
Isn't that epic, man? Like, way to go for him, man. If it's not actually Jeffrey Epstein, embrace that shit.
He does look like Jeffrey Epstein.
He looks exactly like Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm gonna believe that is Jeffrey Epstein until proven otherwise.
I'm with you.
Call from Superstition Ranch Farmers Market.
That has got to be the coolest name ever. Superstition Ranch Farmers Market. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How about you guys?
I'm doing great. Are we whispering?
Just, I'm at work, you know.
Oh, tell all the normies there to watch Badlands Daily.
I'm in a room all by myself, but I still keep it down on the low.
Well, then now you've got somebody to talk to. How are you doing?
This is Arizona, lady. We have animal crossings here in Arizona. We've had them for quite some time. And then when they've, had to redo highways anyways, they'll do a crossing. But in one area, the car versus elk situation has dropped because they're using the animal crossings, and it's fabulous. That part's good here. We have these big elk, right?
So my issue with this is not the Animal Crossing itself, but it's $114 million to do it. And
you're talking California terms. We didn't go through that here in Arizona, which was nice. But yeah, anything California wants to do is a joke.
Well, and the other thing is, it's specifically in that article, it specifically mentions mountain lion populations, and dumping mountain lions off a couple 100 feet from a residential neighborhood sounds like a terrible idea.
It gets your poodle eaten.
It gets everything eaten. I mean, you see stories like that all the time. Yeah. Also, why don't you guys go underground? It seems like it would be cheaper to tunnel them under.
I don't know. Well, you know what? I kind of do, because they put up monitoring stations and stuff like it's on these bridges and stuff like that. And these kids that, at ASU that do wildlife study and stuff like that, they manage a lot of that. And so they get a lot of data. So,
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe the homeless people would find, if it was underground, they would find it, and you wouldn't be able to monitor that. And then while the homeless people are sleeping, the mountain lions come in there and eat them, and that would be terrible.
That's why you don't have homeless in the hills of Tucson.
All right, AZ lady, thank you so much for the call, and appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Happy first day of spring, everybody.
Or is it the last day of winter?
Hey, we're at 105 here in the valley, so it's just the start of summer last week. So yeah.
Holy shit! Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
105. It's a dry heat, though. It's a dry heat.
10 Gal No in the chat said I was talking about the Wildlands project, and I believe that she got that one dead on correct. So if anyone out there wants to go back and look at that, the Wildlands project.
Okay. By the way, for those in the valley that are dealing with 105, it is 71 right now in South Florida. South Florida, the hot place. 71. I might go play golf this afternoon. No, I got to do a recording. So,
but you have that Florida humidity, and they have that desert dry heat.
Yeah, I'll take 88 and humid over 110 and dry all day. I mean, it kind of sucks, but with the ocean breeze, you sweat a little bit and the breeze cools you right down. It's like I guess like Arizona, you'd be like dogs, right? Dogs can't sweat, so they just they pant. And that's what you do out in Arizona. You just pant because you can't sweat. So, or something like that. I don't know. 561-877-1367 if you want to call in. If not, we will wrap the show up and go about our weekends.
Indeed.
Let me see, what else did I have in the news? There was a couple other things that I thought were worthy of covering, and I can't. Oh, did you see this article here from the Telegraph, Chris? We're not going to get into it, but just the headline here. Scientists turn mosquitoes into a vaccination tool to immunize bats against rabies.
Oh, I thought that could never happen.
I feel like we were told that was a conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
like 30 years ago. Remember Bill Gates is weaponizing the mosquitoes to vaccinate people, and they were like, "You're a conspiracy theorist."
Yeah, the other day they had a story out about how if the war in Iran went nuclear, we might end up with terrible health consequences. And I can just imagine them taking a nuclear narrative event and turning it into a pandemic narrative event. And I think that maybe that's when we get the mushroom zombies from that HBO show.
We had again on Sit Rep last night, somebody was, and I don't want to name them because I happen to like the person in the chat, was saying that Iran would totally nuke America the second that they got a nuke. And it's like, that is the most retarded thing. Like that is probably the worst piece of fear-mongering propaganda that I think I've heard in the entirety of the Iran thing. Like Iran somehow going to get a single nuke, or maybe even 10 nukes. And somehow they're going to hit America with these nukes, who, by the way, we've got like 3,500 or more, allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah. And all sorts of defenses and whatever. I mean, it's so dumb.
It is one of the dumbest things. We're watching Paradise, my wife and I think we'll keep it open till I'm done with this story, and then we'll close down the phone lines and wrap up. But we're watching Paradise, and it's a TV show, so take it with a grain of salt. But at the end, they're talking about the nuclear football, and this season's already over, so spoiler alert, whatever. They're talking about the nuclear football, and they're saying, well, here's the red card. You could launch the nukes as the president. You just put this in one button, and boom, you wipe everything out with the nuclear retaliation. And then he's like, yeah, but here's something you don't know. This card, the blue card, I put this in following a nuclear strike from an adversary, and boom, it launches an EMPs that we have stationed throughout the world that shut down all the nukes, but it also cancels everything else out in the world, and we're sent back to the Stone Age, but at least we're all alive. And I was like, that is an interesting concept. I wonder if we actually have that capability. to do that. To, you know, the nuclear football has an alternative, an anti-nuclear football. That would be like a nuclear basketball where it stops the nukes. I don't know. Okay. All right. So we will wrap up the show. I will shut that down, and let's do we have some rants? I think we do have a couple rants. There we go. We got a couple rants here. Doc from Amish, PA, traveling and listening. President Donald J. Trump must be a Chris Paul fan and want to hear the convo save act legitimizing illegitimate elections again. That was actually before we went live, and Chris did address that.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me, too. About Iran nuclear powers have 3 to 5% enrichment. At 60%, Iran can't say it's for peaceful nuclear power. You also can't say at 60% that it's for nuclear weapons, because that's not enough for it. It's also permissible under the non-nuclear proliferation agreement that they are party to.
It's also important to remember that no one knows any of these things.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the what we're told in terms of the narrative behind Iran at 60%, that is allowed under the agreement that they have. They are not violating their agreement. So that's like, you know, moving the goalpost in real time on a contract without, you know, actually renegotiating the contract. It's always another aspect of this that's been absolutely retarded. Jackie Espada, good to see you, Jackie. Georgia meetup this Sunday at 3 p.m. at Fairway Social in Fayetteville. RSVP to me on Telegram. To me meaning Jackie. 3 p.m. Fairway Social in Fayetteville. I feel like there's like a southern way you have to say that, like Fayetteville. No. No. Fayetteville doesn't have that. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap up here. Chris, what do you got coming up, brother?
I'll be on DPH tomorrow night with John. And as I said, I did a long episode of my podcast that has been dark for a while, just to go through a document that I put together about controlled opposition, narrative reality construction, and the discombobulator. And the response has been incredible. So if people out there want to see that, it is for paid subscribers only, but you can find it at imyourmoderator.substack.com.
All right. Oh, man. I just saw Jixer Trickster in the chat saying, I don't know what that is all about, but I promised yesterday that I would make a Leroy Jenkins splice, you know, clip to put in there, because he was saying, don't say that anymore. And it's like, now I'm going to say it all the time.
Yeah.
Little John Harold coming out and all of us there. All right, guys, tune in. Why We Vote. He does that. He's, you know, he says,
you have to do that. Yes.
Yeah. I feel that's a must do now. Like if
when
you tell me not to do something,
yep, you go harder.
You go even harder on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Yeah, again, tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Ash and I will be interviewing Peter Tickton. I think we might also be getting Marissa Caldwell back for the remainder of the show. I'll keep you guys up to date on that on X. Her interview last Friday, we only got her for half an hour because there was a timing mix up, but man, her story is pretty incredible out there. So we shall see. I see Ash in the chat down there. Good to see you. And yeah, everybody have a great weekend. If we don't see you, Only Lands tonight, Why We Vote, Spellbreakers, and stay tuned to Badlands Media for the rest of the weekend. These are not the droids you're looking for. Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone, got the close up. Do you see how awesome my beard looks right now? I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil
To every
directly
hair.
to my mustache.
Nice and, oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you'll be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And soft disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great, great product.